protectors of the Sunnah followers, protectors of the Sunnah.
I saw what she was talking. I said, "Oh, she mean this story from the Quran." Well, I told her, I said, "I'll be covering it in a couple of weeks." Well, now this is it. We did the Gog and the Magog, and just when she was asking me about the Sabbath breakers. Okay, let me take this off so I can see here. This is Facebook. Okay. All right. Now put it in the different groups. All right. Okay, I'm logged on. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Inna alhamdulillah wa salat wa salam ala wa rasulullah. Welcome to our series on stories from the Quran. And today we have a story from the Quran that's very short, so it's not going to take but maybe 10 or 15 minutes. But about 3 weeks ago, one of the sisters here in our Zoom room asked me about the Sabbath breakers. I did not know what she was talking about. And what happened was she was talking about the story in the Quran where Allah speaks about the people who broke the Sabbath. And she said, because she had bought, and by the way, that is a good book. She said she bought the book Stories from the Quran by Ibn Kathir. And she said that she was, I guess he has the story in there and she couldn't understand it. Well, the thing is, guys, when you read that book, just skip over whatever he puts in there about what the Christians said or what the Jews says. Disregard all that, because you don't know if that's truth or falsehood, and that's why it's confusing when y'all are reading Ibn Kathir's book on that. And that's the only criticism I have about Ibn Kathir, is he uses a lot of his information comes from the Bible and the Torah and all that stuff, and those books don't exist anymore. Like the Prophet Muhammad told us, whatever good was in those books is in the Quran. And you don't know if what you are saying is a truth or a lie. And the reality is the Quran has been explained to us in detail by the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he passed that knowledge on to his companions. And his companions became the first scholars of the Quran. And if you want to know a question about something Allah is saying, or a story that Allah is telling you, Ibn Abbas explains most all of them. So did Abu Hurairah explained a lot. Ibn Umar, Ibn Masud. These are companions that the Prophet Muhammad made dua for, asking Allah to give them a deep understanding of the Quran. So I don't understand why anyone would have to turn to a book of lies and try to find truth in it, when our religion has been explained well by those companions. And so that's the difference. When I'm giving you the stories from the Quran, I don't use Ibn Kathir's stuff. I use everything from most of what I'm telling you is what Ibn Abbas said, because Ibn Abbas, explained that Quran so well. But you won't see me telling you that the people of the book said this, or the people of the book said that. I could care less what the people of the book said, because the people of the book are liars. Who cares? Okay, so that's the difference. But if you're going to get that book, just disregard whatever he has that the Christians and Jews said. But anyway, that's the story that I'm going to do today. So I know it took 3 weeks for me to get to your story, but I'm going to get to it now. Let me put the PowerPoint up on the screen. And I did do this last night too, so let's hope it's in good shape, because I didn't review it yet. Okay, so stories from the Quran, and this is also, all my lectures are on the YouTube page and the folder entitled Stories from the Quran. This is the Sabbath Breakers, the story of the Sabbath Breakers. Now, Allah speaks about them in the Quran. This is a story from the Quran. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning. And ask them, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, about the town that was by the sea when they transgressed in the matter of the Sabbath, when their fish came to them openly on the Sabbath day, but the fish did not come to them on the day that they had no Sabbath. We made this a trial for them because they used to rebel against Allah's commands. And when a community amongst them said, why do you preach to a people whom Allah is about to destroy or punish? The preacher said, so that we can be free from guilt before Allah, and perhaps they will fear Allah too. So when they forgot the remindings that had been given to them, we rescued those who forbade the evil, but we seized those who did wrong with a severe punishment because they rebelled against Allah's commands. So when they exceeded the limits of what they were prohibited, we told them, be you monkeys, despised and rejected. This is the story of the Sabbath breakers. And again, most of these stories were stories of the Jews who came before us. And how did these stories come about? Well, when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam migrated to Medina, remember Medina was inhabited by the Arabs and the Jews. And the Jews wanted to test him to see if he was a true prophet. So they asked him to tell them these stories just to see if he was a real prophet, because were he a real prophet, he would know these stories. And that's when Allah sent down these revelations. So this is the story of the Sabbath workers, Sabbath breakers. And also Allah mentions them. He says, indeed, you knew those amongst you who transgressed in the matter of the Sabbath, and we said to them, become monkeys, despised and rejected. This was a punishment, an example to their own and to the succeeding generations. And it was a lesson to those who are pious, as Allah tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah. Okay? So, first of all, what is the Sabbath? The Sabbath, this is the day of worship for the Jews. As our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us in an authentic hadith, every people, every nation has their day. Okay? Our day comes after the other people's day, but we will be the first to be judged and the first to enter paradise. Okay, the Sabbath, the day of worship for the Jews is Saturday. The day of worship, for the Christians is Sunday. Okay, our day of worship is Friday. Okay, so just as Friday is our sacred day, Saturday is the day that is sacred for the Jews. And what happened here, as you can see, Allah had forbidden the Jews from fishing on that day. Okay? Allah forbade them from going out to fish on that day as a punishment. Remember, we talked about in another class how a lot of the prohibitions that Allah put forth in the Torah were a punishment for the Jews. He didn't make things haram because they were bad and dirty. He made a lot of things haram as a punishment for them for breaking his commands. And this is how the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam perfected what the other prophets came with, because everything that's in the Quran is that Allah made haram is bad and dirty. not a punishment. So here Allah is telling us that he cursed these people for breaking the rules or laws that they were supposed to abide by on their day of worship, which was Saturday. And again, like I told you, I'm going to always use what the companions said. Ibn Abbas, along with other companions, but of all the companions that's mentioned here, Ibn Abbas is the one who's most knowledgeable. So I'm just need to just tell you what he said. If Ibn Abbas speaks, the rest of them can take a seat. But Ibn Abbas tells us that these people were located between in a city between Medina and Atur. He said they were the people of Isla. That's where they lived. I guess the town named Isla. They were the people of Isla, and they were practicing the teachings of the Torah. And at that time, Allah had forbidden them to go fishing on Saturdays. And just to test them, because Allah says, just because we say we believe in him, do you not think I won't test you? So to test them, what Allah did was he made the fish come out and expose themselves on Saturdays. By the way, guys, moderators, can you mute Sabrine? Mute. Yeah, because we heard that toilet or whatever that was. Anyway.
No, it was. I'm sitting right here.
Okay, can you mute your mute because we could hear the background noise and I'm on the people's screen. Okay, so anyway, amazingly, the fish would come out and expose themselves on Saturdays. And then on the other days, they couldn't see the fish. And this was Allah's way of testing to see if they would obey him or be tempted, to not. So that's what Allah meant when he said we made this a trial for them, to test them by sending the fish to them in great numbers on Saturday. Okay. So what happened is Ibn Abbas tells us one day they decided to make a trick to catch the fish on the day of Saturday. So what they did was they fixed their fishing nets and ropes, and they excavated streams along to allow the seawater to run through them, and the fish would get stuck there. They did this on Friday because they knew that the fish would come out on Saturday. So they made this excavated thing on Friday. And so Saturday, the fish came and they got stuck in the nets and all of that. They were caught in the nets and ropes and the artificial streams that they made. And then by the end of Saturday, the people of the town came and they were surprised to see how much fish the fishermen had gathered. So these men thought that they were tricking Allah, but in turn, they didn't trick Allah, they tricked themselves. They made Allah angry with them, and Allah cursed them because of this. And so the people of the town were divided into two groups. You had the group that did this trickery, and you had the group that did not participate, but instead they warned them. And then there was another group that did nothing. So the people fell in really three groups. The group that committed the sin, the group that saw them or knew that they were going to do the sin and spoke out against it, and then the other group that didn't say or do nothing. Okay. And so the group that didn't say or do nothing, they asked the people who spoke out saying, why are you speaking out and admonishing these people when Allah will take care of them? Don't let them do what they want to do. If they want to go out and use trickery to catch fish, let them do it. Allah will punish them. But the preacher said, no, we're not going to just sit back and do nothing. He said, we're supposed to enjoin the good. We're supposed to forbid the evil. So we're going to let them know that what they doing is wrong, that what they planning on doing is wrong. And that way, Allah won't hold us accountable. Allah is not going to hold us accountable, for not doing anything. And then that third group said, well, we hate what they're doing too, but we're just going to leave them for Allah to deal with. Okay, so that's how the people were. And that happens a lot today, guys. You see something wrong in your community, or you see something wrong in your family. Some of the people will speak out against it and say, hey, what you're doing is wrong. Then there's other people that will say, well, I don't like the fact that he's doing it, but I'm just going to make do for him and leave him to Allah. Both ways are right. But our Prophet Muhammad taught us, if you can change it with your hand, do that first. It's only if you cannot change it with your hand that you then move to the next level and speak out against it. As far as hating it and making do against it, that's the last approach. But you don't do that unless the other two ways are not possible. Do you guys understand? When it comes to enjoining the good and forbidding the evil, we can't just decide, I'm just going to lead them to themselves. No, you got to, if you can speak out, speak out. It's only if you can't speak out that you just hate it in your heart. But in this case, what happened was you had the group that did speak out and the group that didn't speak out but hated it in their heart. And then you had the group that did nothing. So what happened was Allah tells us, so when they forgot the remindings that were given to them and did not listen to the preachers, Allah ended up punishing the people that committed the sin. He punished them by turning them into monkeys and pigs. Okay. Allah did not punish the ones who did speak out because they tried to stop it. And Allah also left the people alone that prayed against it, even though they could have spoke out, they didn't. The fact that they didn't commit the sin, Allah left them alone too. But let me tell y'all what happened. Ibn Abbas tells us that when the people caught the fish this way on the day of Sabbath, the people that spoke against them said, we don't even want to be in your company, because if Allah decides to punish you, we don't want no parts of it. So what they did was they built a wall separating the people who committed the sin away from the rest of them. And what happened was the people that were behind the wall, they used to come out in the afternoon, to get their food and take care of their business and then go back behind that wall. Well, one day they didn't come out and the townspeople got anxious and sent somebody to go see what was going on, why they didn't come out the door from behind the wall. And when he went to check on them, he found that they were all turned into monkeys and they were shouting. And then when they saw him, they recognized who he was and they were trying to talk to him in their monkey language. The man then ran and got the other people, and all the other people came and saw them. And that's when the preacher said, didn't we tell you that what you were doing was wrong? Didn't we tell you that Allah was going to punish you? And the monkeys began to make signs with their hands telling them yes, because the monkeys recognized them, and they were running to their family members, grabbing them. And the ones that were pigs were running to their families, sniffing them, trying to let them know it's me. Okay. Also, finally, Ibn Abbas tells us, that the people that spoke out against them said, this is what happens when you reject Allah and you deliberately, intentionally sin against him. So what Allah had did was turn the young men into monkeys, and he had turned the old men into pigs, but they did not live long after that, and they had no offspring. And that's important because a lot of people read this story in the Quran And they say, oh, well, the Jews, all monkeys on earth are Jews, are descendants of the Jews. I know some of you have heard people say that. Well, Ibn Abbas specified these people didn't live long. They only lived in animal form for about 3 or 4 days and they died. They didn't produce no children, no offspring. They didn't have no baby monkeys. They didn't have no baby pigs. So we cannot say that the monkeys and pigs on earth today are descendants of the Jews. That's very important. So this was Allah's way of punishing them for breaking the Sabbath. He turned them into monkeys and pigs, but they didn't live long. There's one hadith where Ibn Abbas said they didn't live longer than 3 days, and they did not have babies. Okay, because that's what the Jews wanted to know. When they came to the prophet, they said, you know, a lot of people are saying that we are descendants of monkeys and pigs. Are we descendants of monkeys and pigs? And this is when the prophet told this story. No, you're not, you know, the descendants of them. This was Allah's way of punishing those people at that time. And they died out. Okay, so that's the story of the Sabbath breakers. And again, a lot of the punishments that Allah gave to the Jews, he ended up putting it in their Torah as prohibitions, but they still never learned. They kept on breaking Allah's laws and disobeying him and killing his prophets until Allah just cursed the whole nation of them and replaced them with the Christians. The Jews used to be the chosen people, but by them violating Allah's laws, he cursed them and replaced them with the Christians. The Christians became the chosen people. And then when the Christians did the same thing, he cursed them, and we Muslims, we are the chosen people now. Okay. All right. So that's the story of the Sabbath breakers. Are there any questions about this story? Does it make sense? Does everybody understand? You know, the Jews are not descendants of these people because these people died within a few days and they didn't procreate. Okay. All right. I want to thank everybody for joining and listening. Yeah, the sister on Facebook said thank you. That's what she wanted to know too. Yeah. Yeah. He made his book a little bit more complicated. Yeah, just when you read that book, it's a nice book. Just skip over all that stuff about what the people of the book said. And if you, whatever you see, if he puts anything in there about from Ibn Abbas, go with that, because that's one of the original companions. Yeah. Okay, so I'm closing out on Facebook. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Feel free to join us in the Zoom room, guys. Assalamu alaikum.